Good morning. Today we are going to learn about genetics. So, genetic disorders can be classified into three categories: chromosomal disorders, single gene disorders, multifactorial inheritance. So, chromosomal disorders, as the name implies, it is caused due to abnormality in the number of chromosome or structure of chromosome. Examples: trisomy 21, monosomy X, Cray-Duchat syndrome. Single gene disorders, they are caused due to a single mutant gene. They are also called as Mendelian disorders, and there are four basic patterns of inheritance: autosomal dominant, autosomal recessive, and sex-linked dominant or recessive. Multifactorial inheritance, as the name implies, it's multifactorial. That means both genetic factors, non-genetic factors such as environmental factors play a role here. Environmental factors can be an infectious agent, can be a drug, it can be an ionizing radiation. In this class we are going to concentrate on mode of inheritance mainly, that's Mendelian disorders. So before going to learn about that, we should know something about pedigree. Pedigree depicts family data. So if a patient comes to you in your clinic with some clinical manifestations, you suspect it to be a genetic disorder. Okay, then you ask the history of the patient, you collect the family history, you mainly concentrate on the first degree relatives like parents and siblings. Then you also again ask about the relatives, and now you want to construct a pedigree analysis. That means you are putting a family tree to know what type of inheritance is there. So that is called pedigree analysis. So this pedigree analysis, you have to know some symbols to draw the pedigree analysis. Okay, so this pedigree is a shorthand method of giving relevant information about the mode of transmission of disorder in the family. And these are the symbols of pedigree charting. So on the right side you can see, on the left side and on the bottom there are some symbols. Let me make it very simple. Already you are aware because these are taught in your schools. So if you are drawing an empty square, that is unaffected male. If you are drawing an empty circle, is unaffected female. If you just cross the square or circle, that shows that the male person has died or the female person has died. If you shade the circle, it is affected female. If you shade the square, it is affected male. If you put a dot inside, that indicates that person is carrier for the particular gene. And instead of square or circle, if you are drawing a diamond, that means the sex of the person is not specified. And if it is a small shaded circle with the line above, that is abortion or stillbirth with the sex unspecified. If you are linking a square and circle with a line, that means mating. If you are linking the square and circle with double line, that is consanguineous marriage. And you can also represent the parents with their offsprings. And on the right side bottom you can see the non-identical twins or the dizygotic twins are represented in a particular way, and the monozygotic twin or identical twins are represented in a particular way. Instead of shading the square or circle completely, if you are shading it partially, that means they are heterozygotes. Okay, on the left side from top, the fifth symbol, propositus. So you can note that there is an arrow from the left bottom. So if there is an arrow from the left bottom, it is propositus if it is a male. So propositus is nothing but it is the affected male person who is bringing the attention of family to the clinician. Whereas if you are putting a circle and putting a line, that is arrow from the left bottom, that is proposita. Proposita is the affected female person drawing the attention of the family members to the clinician. That means they are the people who are coming to your clinic. And you can use the term proband. The proband is a broad category which includes both propositors and proposita. Mendelian inheritance. So they are single gene disorders. They are caused by single mutant gene. The inheritance can be autosomal dominant, autosomal recessive, sex-linked inheritance. So whenever the term sex-linked inheritance is used, it is synonymous with X-linked. There are two sex chromosomes, you are aware, X and Y chromosome, but Y chromosomes don't show Mendelian genes except a gene called HY antigen gene. Otherwise, they don't show Mendelian genes. So whenever X-linked inheritance term is used, it is synonymous with X-linked inheritance. Again, it can be an X-linked autosomal or X-linked recessive. An autosomal dominant disorder. Uh, so you know that there are 22 pairs of autosomes and one pair of sex chromosome in human beings. So let us consider the first pair. So in the first pair of chromosome, you have one chromosome derived from father and one chromosome derived from mother. Am I right? So out of this two chromosomes, one chromosome which is derived from father if it is having an abnormal gene, and one chromosome which is derived from mother which is having a normal gene, the child is said to be heterozygote. Okay, just be aware about the term heterozygote. If the chromosome derived from father and mother, they are having abnormal gene, the child is said to be homozygote. Okay. Now, what is autosomal dominant trait? So, autosomal dominant trait, it is manifesting itself or it is expressing itself in a heterozygote state. Homozygotes are very severely affected because of double dose of abnormal gene. You can trace the autosomal dominant trait through many generations. And some of the clinical conditions which are autosomal dominant traits are porphyria variegata, achondroplasia, tuberous sclerosis, Treacher-Collins syndrome, neurofibromatosis, Marfan syndrome, myotonic dystrophy. This is a pedigree analysis of autosomal dominant inheritance. So, what are you inferring from this pedigree analysis? Okay, this is just an example. So, your inference is most important from the pedigree analysis. So, what are you going to infer from the pedigree analysis? So, you can see that the first generation there is one affected person, the second generation there is the children of the affected persons, they are also affected. In the third generation, the children of the affected people, they are affected, whereas the second generation you can see that there is one unaffected kid, and this unaffected kid is not transmitting the disease to her offsprings. Okay, so now we are just seeing the pedigree and we are going to infer certain things from the pedigree analysis. So what are our inferences? In autosomal dominant trait, an affected person has an affected parent. So if you can see the second generation, there are two affected people, and if you trace their parent, the parent is also affected. In the third generation, there are three affected people, and if you trace the parent, they are also affected. Am I right? This is our first inference. An affected person has an affected parent. And the second inference is, you see the first generation and the offsprings of the first generation. So here they have put only 3 offsprings. So suppose there are 4 offsprings, already 2 offsprings are affected. So the third and fourth offspring, they are unaffected. That means an affected person has normal offspring and abnormal offspring in equal proportion. That means 50% of the children are normal, 50% of the children are affected. Then you can see that in second generation there is one male affected and one female affected. So what is your inference from this? Both males and females are equally affected. Yeah. Then you can see that the affected people, they are present in first generation, second generation, third generation, and if you again extend the pedigree analysis to 4 or 5 generations, again there will be affected people. So here the inference is the trait appears in every generation without skipping. Okay. And the fifth inference is normal children of an affected person, they don't transmit the disease. Am I right? So in the second generation there is one unaffected female, am I right, of the among the kids. So and the unaffected female is not transmitting the disease to her kids because she is normal, she is not transmitting the disease to her kids. Okay, let me again say the inferences. An affected person has an affected parent. An affected person has normal and abnormal offspring in equal proportion. Both males and females are equally affected. The trait appears in every generation without skipping. Normal children or affected person don't transmit the disease. So you have to infer these things from pedigree. Then you can very well say that it is an autosomal dominant trait. So you just put a pedigree, then you draw conclusions from pedigree, then you can say whether it is autosomal dominant, autosomal recessive, X-linked. That's all. Easy only. Okay. So for that you have to know whether it is passing in all the generations, then how many males and females are affected. So those things you have to know. Okay. I told you that affected patient must have an affected parent, but there are certain exceptions. So for example, here in the second generation, one male is affected. Am I right? This male person, normally they should have one affected parent, but when you draw the history, the parent is not affected. How come it's possible? But it is an autosomal dominant trait. So it can be possible when the disease appears in the particular person because of mutation. Okay. So if you consider these disorders, I have given certain examples, no? So if you consider those disorders, there are possibilities for new mutation to arise in them. Achondroplasia, it is an autosomal dominant inheritance only, but it can happen due to new mutation in 80% of cases. Tuberous sclerosis can happen because of new mutation again in 80% of cases. Sorry. Treacher-Collins syndrome, there are 60% of patients with new mutation. Neurofibromatosis, there are 40% of patients with new mutation. That means out of 100 patients, 40 patients, they are having mutations in themselves. They don't have an affected parent. Marfan syndrome, 30% of patients have new mutation, and myotonic dystrophy, 25% of patients have new mutation. So just think about that also while interpreting pedigree analysis. Okay, so unaffected parent, it is due to new mutation. Okay, but the gene is present in the parent. It's not expressing itself in the parent. That condition also you can see an unaffected parent because they are not clinically manifesting, but the gene is present in them. Okay, and then the last chance is extramarital paternity. So what are the features of autosomal dominant disorder? There are two main features. One is delayed onset, another one is variable clinical expression. So what is delayed onset? Delayed onset means the disease gene, the disease causing gene or the abnormal gene is present at birth, but it is manifesting itself. The disorder is manifesting only in the adult life. Example, Huntington chorea and adult polycystic kidney disease. So you can check the child, newborn child, it is having an affected gene, but during childhood it will be normal. In adult life it is showing the clinical manifestation. So that is delayed onset. The next one is variable clinical expression. That means if you see a particular family is having some problem. If you see the members of family, so one member, there is one disorder called multiple endocrine adenoma and peptic ulcer syndrome. So one member of the family is having hypoglycemia, one member is having peptic ulcer, one member is having multiple lipoma of skin, one member is having kidney stone, one member is having bitemporal hemianopsia, but they are all having a single autosomal dominant disorder, which is multiple endocrine adenoma peptic ulcer syndrome. So that disease is manifesting in a different way. So one member will be having pancreatic involvement, one member is having parathyroid involvement, one member is having pituitary involvement. So that is variable clinical expression. So this is Punnett square. So you know to draw the Punnett square because it was taught in your 11th and 12th. So in that way also you can interpret. Coming on to autosomal recessive inheritance. So autosomal dominant expresses itself in a heterozygote state, whereas autosomal recessive expresses in a homozygote state. That is more important. The homozygote is receiving one abnormal gene from each parent. So that means the parents are heterozygote, whereas a kid is homozygote, and the disease is expressing in the kid. That means homozygote state. And the trait appears in siblings. Okay, and examples of autosomal traits are recessive traits are cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, phenylketonuria, mucopolysaccharide disorders like Hurler syndrome, Tay-Sachs disease, Lawrence-Moon-Biddle syndrome, sickle syndrome. Again, this is your pedigree analysis. So what are you going to infer from autosomal recessive inheritance pedigree? So there are 4 generations depicted here. So you can infer that the trait, the third generation, you can see one affected male and one affected female. Am I right? In the third generation. Other generations, they are all heterozygote. So the first inference is the trait is appearing only in sibling, not in the parent or offspring. In third generation, 2 siblings, the 2 people are affected, brother and sister. and about 25% of the siblings of the proband are affected. The risk is 1 in 4. For example, in the third generation, if you consider the affected male as a proband, then out of 4 siblings of the proband, 1 sibling will be having the trait. So you can see that the female is having that, the sister is having the autosomal dominant recessive trait. And the third inference, again, both male and female are equally affected. So that also you have to consider, whether what is the percentage of male being affected, what is the percentage of female being affected, whether it is passing in all generation. So siblings, what are the chances? So if you interpret in that way, it will be easier. And parents of the proband may be consequences. So let me again tell the inferences. The trait appears in siblings, not in parent or offsprings. 25% of siblings of the proband are affected, and both male and female, they have equal chance of getting affected. Parents of proband may be consanguineous. This is a Punnett square. So autosomal recessive inheritance. So we told that the parents are heterozygote, that means carrier. So here you can see the heterozygote for an autosomal recessive trait is called carrier. So don't confuse a term which is used in medical side. Medical side, carrier means it is a person with some infection, but they are not manifesting the infection and they are transmitting the infection. Okay, whereas in genetics it is a heterozygote state. That's all. Okay. So the parents are carriers, that means parents are heterozygote, but the child is homozygote. Okay. Um, so here there are certain, in the Punnett square you can play with the Punnett square. That's what he has said. If both parents are carriers, if both parents are carriers, as depicted in the left side of the Punnett square, then you can see that 25% of the kids are normal, 25% of the kid is homozygote, that means affected, and 50% of the kids are carriers. Okay. Now, if one parent is a heterozygote carrier and other person is a homozygote, just play with it. You can put the Punnett square, you can play with it. So one parent is heterozygote, one parent is homozygote, means the kids, 50% of kids are homozygote, that means they are affected. 50% of the kids are heterozygote carriers. If both parents are homozygote, then automatically all the children will be affected. Okay. Autosomal dominant is over, autosomal recessive is over. Sex-linked inheritance. Already told you, males are having XY chromosome and females are having XX chromosome. This Y chromosome is not showing any Mendelian gene except for HY antigen gene. So always sex-linked inheritance is synonymous with X-linked. Okay. So what is an example for HY antigen gene? So some of you have seen normal people with hair over their pinna. So that is example of HY antigen gene, hairy pinna. Okay, so sex-linked inheritance can be X-linked dominant or X-linked recessive. Among them, X-linked dominant is rare when compared with X-linked recessive. Okay. So males are having XY chromosome and females are having XX chromosome. Okay. The X-linked recessive trait, if you are considering an X-linked recessive trait, it is determined by the gene carrying on the X chromosome. Both X chromosomes should be having the abnormal gene. So if the female is having both the chromosome with abnormal gene, then she will express the disease. Okay. But the male people, they are having only one X chromosome. Okay. And they are said to be hemizygous for X-linked genes. They are having only one X-linked chromosome. So if that particular X chromosome is having an abnormal gene, it is easily expressed. So male people will be expressing the disease, whereas female people will be like a carrier. Okay. Now, X-linked recessive. So what are you going to infer from the pedigree? Already you are aware about. So what are things to look upon in the pedigree? So you have to see whether the disease is transmitting in all generations. So what is the chance of parents affected? What are the chances of siblings affected? Then males and females, whether they are equally affected or not. So you will now see this. It is very prominent that only males are affected from this pedigree. So in the second generation, one male is affected, third generation, one male is affected, fourth generation, one male is affected. Whereas the females, they are carriers. Okay, the trait affects male. That's the first and foremost point. Next point, parents to siblings. So if you see, affected male is transmitting the disease. He is transmitting the gene, the abnormal gene, to his daughter, who is a carrier. He is not transmitting the abnormal gene to his son. Why? Because he is transmitting only Y chromosome to his son, no? So the affected male is transmitting the trait through his daughter, and this daughter can transmit to half of the sons. That means affected male will be having half of his grandson with the clinical manifestation, whereas his daughter will be a carrier. No male to male transmission occurs because a father contributes for a Y chromosome to the son. And if you look at the sibling, the affected male, they are related to each other through carrier female. So it's not sibling alone, you are looking at cousins, second cousins. So in a kindred, the affected male will be related to each other through a carrier female. So already you can see, third generation there is one male affected. In the second generation also one male is affected. So the third generation, the affected male is having an affected uncle. That means this affected male in the third generation is related to the second generation through carrier female. Now, so these are the features. So the disease affects only the mainly males, rarely females. So females can be affected in certain cases that we'll know later. Okay, there is a thing called lion hypothesis. So already it was taught in your class or school days itself. So the trait affects males. The trait is transmitted from an affected male through all his daughters to half of their sons. No male to male transmission occurs. Since father contributes only Y chromosome to his son, in a kindred, affected males are related to each other through carrier female. Example, the common example is hemophilia. Then Duchenne muscular dystrophy, color blindness, G6PD deficiency. Okay, this is my X-linked dominant. So what am I going to infer from the pedigree? So look at this pedigree. It is transmitting in all generations. Males and females are having equal chance of getting affected. Siblings are also, there are chances. Okay, but look at this. It looks somewhat similar to autosomal dominant. Am I right? So actually, it is transmitting in all the generations. In the second generation, if you look at that, the male and female, they are having equal chance of being affected. So somewhat I'm confused. So whether it is similar to autosomal, whether it is autosomal dominant or X-linked dominant. So now let us consider the feature of X-linked dominant so that we can remove our confusion. So this trait is more frequent in females than in males, okay, who present relatively